Hey, Claire. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Doing well, actually. How about you?
I am doing good. I have been looking forward to this conversation and talking to you. And I've been, like you mentioned earlier, I've been prepping for prepping for this morning because our ADHD and our OCD and our like, if there's one big thing, it's like, let's get it done, let's do that. Even though, like, I literally thought about this last night or this morning. I got up at like three something. And I thought about it. I was like, well, if I stay up, I have 7 hours because that's until 10. And then if, like, I
Oh, no.
literally did, and I was on the toilet peeing. And as I was like in the mid of my thing, I was like, if I do that, but I'm like, I could use the sleep. Like, I'm okay. I did. I prepped. I'm good. Like, all these thoughts just to like get to here. So I'm good because I know I prepped. I did my stuff. Now I've screwed up as I have continued this whole time in so many ways and so many different things. Like that's okay because learning phases, learning things. But that's where I thought about. Like I don't know why there was so much anxiety about doing this and doing, and not just with you, but just doing this that I have, and the genuinely I think I try so hard to push myself, but I have. So anyway, leading into that, let's get into tell me about who you are and what courage brings you to have a conversation here with me, but tell our audience about who Claire is and how to say your full name to make sure everybody, because people always forget the one letter and I did it in the beginning, so I learned my lesson, but
Yeah, people always drop off the E, but yes, I am Claire Louise Huder. I go by my full name now for all acting stuff. I was just Claire Huder when I first started, but for the past couple of years, I've been going by my full name. I love the Louise. And aside from, acting, I recently branched out to being a director, a screenwriter, and on the other flip side, I also do modeling, petite modeling, a variety of kinds of modeling, not just like fashion, but also lifestyle and artistic modeling, all that. And I am an artist. I like to paint. I've been painting, and it's been very therapeutic, but also very just, I don't know, fun to do, a fun new aspect, creative aspect about myself. So I've uh I've been in Jacksonville for maybe 6, 7 years about, and I originally did opera, and I've just
where are you
transitioned.
originally from? Where
Oh, originally from Michigan, studied in Ohio, so I'm a Yankee at heart.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you think of our Florida Duval? Now that you've been here
Oh my
for
goodness,
some
it's
time,
just I thought I would escape the bipolar weather of Ohio, but it's just even more bipolar in Florida.
on a
It's just
different
throughout the state.
scale, like on a different
Yeah,
scale.
it's
There's no snow bipolar, but like the
no,
thunderstorms and the rain and the
at least
potential
not usually.
tornado, and like at least we were prepared for hurricanes, but the daily like potential tornadoes right now and like little things, you're like, man, what's going on?
And I've
But
never seen rain like Florida rain. It's insane. It pretty much is almost on a level to snow sometimes because it's crazy.
that's
So
crazy.
yeah, Florida's fun though. I love being able to, just do so much because of the weather, despite its limitations sometimes. It also lets me and a bunch of other people, do what they love kind of year round instead of being restricted by the snow.
Yeah, no, it definitely has its absolute perks. I love it. Like I've claimed it my home, especially Jacksonville. It's my home. Duval, like that's my place for as long as it can be, and as long as I can keep it there. As long as it keeps loving me, I'm gonna keep loving it. So
Yeah.
it's that way. Speaking of creating and being an artist and getting into directing, you just finished potentially filming, I think, or are filming this weekend. I may or may have mistaken it. The zoo
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. Yes, you're filming tomorrow. The So by the time you guys hear this, she would have already filmed it, and we will share that. as it gets done, but it is called Zoom call, right? Or
Video call.
video call, video call. We're on a Zoom call right now, so but it's called video call. Um, and I remember it being, over Zoom because it's in the script. But anyway, I read the script, and I've always said you are one talented human being, and something that fell from you from the moment I met you, and your potential to write has just increased exponentially over those last couple of years, and growth, especially since you delved into this new genre and this new side of creating. I wanted to ask you, how has directing, in seeing the perspective of, not just from the actor's perspective, because I know you've been in front of the camera for a long time now, but how has directing changed your perspective in terms of art, and how has it affected your relationships? Because this call, or this film, the short that you're doing, is a very personal, kind of close to heart almost experience to relationships, and to, if you'll tell the story of it, to some things that a lot of people go through, and tragedies they experience on a daily basis. How has all of that shifted your view? Because you've directed a few of those. How has that shifted your view from the modeling perspective, the in front of camera, to the back of it? And how has that affected your growth in this process as an artist?
Well, first to experience it with perception, because that was the first one that I got the opportunity to step into the director position. Um, with that, it was definitely a shock kind of learning experience, because I've always wanted to be more involved in the process, and being an actor director, so to speak, because like there are actors, there are directors, and there are actor directors. And there are quite a few of them, and they have a unique viewpoint on that. They get to see it from both sides. And having the opportunity to do that, seeing the director's side, and how you are able to pull certain things like out of your actors. You learn how to work with certain actors, and how to, even, since I was directing myself in a way, you learn how to direct yourself and pull performances, or just certain things out of yourself that you need for the piece. So being able to do that, it's given me even more of an appreciation for the whole process. And it's also given me a whole new realization of how much of a struggle it can be on the other side too, because yeah, the actors have the getting into the role, and making sure that they translate it cinematically for the director and the audience. But the director also has that same responsibility from the other side, and they're very, very similar.
Yes.
And then there's the behind the scenes part with getting, like, I know normal people have like location scouts and all that stuff, but having a location
No.
full on me the day of, oh my gosh, Airbnb. Oh my goodness. But and then having another opportunity to direct with video call now, it's fun, because I have another opportunity to grow from perception. I can see what more, even with the additional projects that I've done since then, grabbing, learning from other directors I've worked
Yeah.
with. I'm able to, I feel like I can even pull even more out of myself for this one, because I'm starring in it again. And my co-star, my cinematographer, Jack Drain, he's all the way up in Illinois, and is going to be, I love how we're going to be doing this, because he's literally filming with all of his stuff up there, and I'm going to be on the video call, and I'll be recording some, and he'll be recording it and doing his camera. So it's real fun seeing it all in all come together. And as a
I want to give a
person,
huge, really quick not jump, but I want to give you a huge shout out
oh,
to
good.
Jack, because
Yes.
he moved to pursue other things and other areas of his life. And I don't know him personally. I think we maybe met once in passing. But I have followed him, and followed through you and through other people. And so just a huge shout out to them for still supporting the community here and the artists here, and willing to put that time in and to do that and create that network and keep that community going, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It gives you the ability, like you said, to grow and to learn more, and for you to learn a new way of how this is done and a new perspective on how to approach potentially different projects in the same way. So a huge shout out to them to again join and do this with you. So I'd like to give that out.
Of
Uh,
course, yes. Shout out to Jack Doreen, to all the Firelight Productions people. They're kind of spread out a little up there now, I think, but I think they're all up there in the Midwest now, but
yeah,
still
yeah,
supporting us down here.
yeah.
But all I was saying is that as a person, it's made me, I still lapse sometimes with patience, as we all do, but it's made me more patient when it comes to realizing how things progress, especially in film, and it's made me more aware of all the different aspects to
That
it.
go into it, that are not
Yeah.
just get on call, come on set.
Yeah, it's less
You
of a
know,
tunnel vision.
so much.
It's more,
It's so much broader than you think, and there's so much to do when you're in the role. In that, when you're in that director role, you're in the role of leadership, right? You're not in the role of just telling people what to do. You're also asking for guidance. You're also ensuring that you're working towards something that's going to achieve greatness for not just you, but for also the team that you're with. So it's a lot of a learning curve in that. And a lot of times, in a lot of experiences, in my experiences, there's a difference between a director and a leader, like you said, and then there's a director leader. And just like, there's a difference between an actor and a director, there's a difference between those personalities too. So however you're approaching this, however you're doing that, I'm glad that you are approaching it in that mindset that's going to continue to grow you into a great leader in what you do with that, because again, like I said, you have potential. So tell me a little bit about this, about Video Call. Tell us what the premise of it is.
so it just came to me one night. I love how things like that happen. And I decided to write a short film. It's about 5 pages long, and it's about a relationship, an abusive relationship, or I guess you can pair that in with a domestic violence relationship. And it pretty much takes place where there's two best friends on a video call. One is someone who's always been beside, their best friend. It's going to be the person Jack is playing, and he's worried about her. She's in this abusive relationship with a guy who we never really see, but we hear. And it's him having her face the reality of that, and she's finally starting to come around, and it's at the point where she's finally ready to leave. And subsequently, that can actually be the most dangerous part of an abusive relationship, the most dangerous part for the person being abused, because that abuser they're losing that control. So this video call explores, what may happen. And I leave it to the audience to decide. But
You definitely left it to the audience to decide. I'll
it's
tell you, reading that
definitely from
script.
from the heart.
Yeah, so knowing you personally, and I won't get personal, but knowing you personally as a human being, and then knowing you as an artist as well, like I've seen the correlation and how you've grown that and how you've really put that into your healing process. And you're absolutely right in that this short that you're doing is in an advocacy and for awareness on domestic violence and relationships, and awareness about abuse, and um, And what you had mentioned was that one of the most dangerous parts of that could be is that leaving could be the most dangerous part, because like you said, the perpetrator has lost control of their prey, and that's how they think, and so to in their mind they can't leave. And that's part of one of the stigmas and one of the obstacles when it comes to taking control and ownership of the self and being able to leave a relationship or leave a situation that is absolutely detrimental to your health or your life. And as always, by no means are we medical professionals in any shape or form. We're just advocating and speaking and sharing and educating through our stories and experiences. So I always like to throw that in there just to make sure you guys know. But I wanted to ask you from in your own personal experience, have you ever been in that position where you weren't able to leave, or you thought it could be your last time if you did leave? And if so, how did you, like, how are you sitting here talking to me now?
Um, well, I have unfortunately found myself in similar situations. I have had to leave those situations, yes, and to cite one of them was up in Ohio, and that hap not happily, but that fortunately ended in a positive way, in the sense that, the person realized what they were doing wrong, but I also realized that I had to get out of there. And it was not a situation where someone was forcing me to stay. And I am very thankful that it did not escalate to a situation where I was literally fighting to get out, but I was able to, just pack up my car and leave. I moved all the way down to Florida, new start, fresh start. And though that relationship, it's weird, not weird, but it's interesting because it did get physically abusive. And as much as that person would say that they saw red or they didn't remember what they did when it happened, it still happened. So the moment that happened, it was get up, get out. Because who knows? Like, I was thinking of spending my life with that person. So who knows what they would have ended up doing to me later, to our child, if we had a child later. There were so many ifs.
Can I
So
ask
I'm thankful that I,
can I ask how
yes,
old you were in that? Because that's a very mature
yes,
way
that's
of
another.
thinking, to be able to have that foresight, to have that conversation with yourself, or whoever had that conversation with you, to say, hey, these are the signs. And what gave you the, like, what gave you the, like, I asked what gave you that courage within, and not maybe from the outside, but you and I know what I'm asking you the question. Like, what gave you
Yeah.
the courage? What was you, like,
Um,
for you? Because
mm,
you, as humans, and when we're in these situations, like, we feel and we think we're so weak, and there's no possible way that we could get out of it, or have the strength, or have the audacity to think to value our next breath, our next step, right? And even when you're at a younger age, that's even more drilled into your head, that's even more pushed into you. And then being a woman, a female, that control that is literally tied around you your whole life, right? Your whole being, always, you're in some shape or form, something is controlling you, and you don't have the freedom to express, or to be, or to exist, or to just breathe. What was it that within you that, like, that small, like, what was yours?
um, I was pretty much right out of college. It was a partially on and off college relationship. And so I was very young when I was in this. And to be honest, in the moment, I didn't see it as strength. I saw it as weakness. I was like, I'm giving up. You
Right.
know, I'm dropping everything and I'm running. You know, I'm not someone who runs away from things. But my dad also, you know, raised me to have faith in myself and to have worth in myself. And I was like, I don't deserve this. So it was those feelings clashing, and it was my support system, knowing that I had my mother to come down to, that I was pretty much driving straight down to her, and I had her to, you know, help me heal and recover before I could step out again. It was it was certainly a learning experience, and I looking back, I can see how strong it was instead of how weak it was. You know, it's definitely more of a reflection now how I can see where that strength was. And in a way, I kind of want, you know, video call to help people see, because you can see you read the script, like she's finally seeing her own strength. And it even like links in with my I've been unfortunate to put myself in a couple situations like this, and I've grown from them and am still growing from them because, you know, they are kind of recent. But my recent one, which was even a little more physical at times, um, that person actually would kind of trap me because I wouldn't be able to, like, I would have to lock the door and they would try to
Right.
get in. It was very difficult, or they would physically remove me from a place and put me in another one. It
Which
was
is what I got from the script is when he was in the room, it was that and having that. So,
the yelling from the other side because you were
yeah,
there during those
some of them,
moments.
yeah, a couple of moments. And again, not to bring it up any way to bring it, but
Oh,
I
of
want
course.
to I want us to be able to have this ability for humans who are in these situations that are viewing themselves as weak or as incapable or as so small because they in their physical form are in that, right? Like we may in our physical form be that way, but our inner, what you had just said, your values that your dad taught you, they were clashing with what you were seeing in reality. They were absolutely clashing with what he said. You have value, you have worth, you don't get to be treated this way. Your standards for who you are so much higher, yet you're allowing another being to diminish that. Like, no, you know what I taught you. So like that voice and that support was in there. And you, again, having you, like you said, in retrospect you can see the strength, but when you're in it you're not strong or you don't feel strong. But I want people to understand, really for humans to understand, is that the strength to actually think about the decision, the
Hmm.
amount of energy that takes when you're already weak, right? When you're already depleted in hope, in energy, in strength, and all the stuff, when you're already at your ends wits, the
Hmm.
strength and the courage it takes for you to think and process your next step, and then for you to actually pack up, for you to actually get in the car. Those are actions. I keep saying actually because action, act is in actually. And those are facts. Like you took those steps and people take those steps. And you may not know what's on the other side, but the fact that you're willing to go and work your way through, and then yes, maybe you fell into a few different relationships that led you some paths and led you in there, but this is why these conversations are important, so that when you even listen to this back and when you hear yourself or when you see yourself, I want you to see the strength and not our lives are not mistakes. Our habits that we continuously do are mistakes. Like our lives are not mistakes. Our experiences are not, right. Our behaviors are not mistakes. They're what we know. If we continue to do them, yes, they can become, mistakes. But our behaviors and are what we know. Like you've known 20 years, and you and I have talked about this, 20 years of different lifestyle, different experiences. You've had different ups and downs and different forms of behaviors, and now you're learning them. You can't unlearn that in 10 minutes, 10 days. Like if you're superhuman, you can, sure. I've tried. It doesn't work because you know how I try to be superhuman, but it doesn't work.
So,
Right, it doesn't work. What does work, and this is something you and I have worked on and going into this now, we've taken these last couple of years to talk about these obstacles, to talk about these roadblocks when it comes to conversations and the narrative of domestic abuse, mental health, suicide awareness, depression, bipolar, whatever it is that is alienating a human being. We're not willing to have the conversation about it. We're willing to just go, you know what, you're right, that's a check, 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 done. Here's some pills, you're done, go figure it out, without any conversation into context of it, to like unpack what that means, because it takes time. And you and I know both from actual conversation of unpacking context within ourselves, within situations, and putting ourselves into situations where we've had to evaluate and unpack even more context, learning from them. And that's taken over 3 years now. 3 years to get to here, right? Like, and that's just when you and I started. So my question to you now, from your perspective, because from mine, I've always seen it as there is absolute hope. There's absolute way, like there's no way we can't change for the better. Like there's no way we cannot and do not have control and accountability and responsibility of our own reality. Like there's no way. I understand that there are forces that can absolutely contribute to all the environments and situations. However, how we experience it, how we decide that reality is going to be for us, is completely and utterly up to us. You could have decided that your relationships are just imaginary. Like, no, they don't. No, that's how they treat me. They love, like,
yeah,
you could have lived in
they're just
that
holding on.
and you couldn't blame them for you just like deciding and that's the reality, regardless of their actions and behaviors, because that's the reality you decided was worth it to you because of your, and you're like, that's not my reality, boo boo, not even close. Like, I'm out,
And it's not
deuces.
to say that at first I didn't, because I still tried, at first, especially with d down here, I tried to be like, well, it's this. Make excuses. It's this. It's this. So it's not to say that I didn't, but it's us pushing through that.
It's
And
pushing through that and having, like you said, having that strong support system. And I know for a fact a lot of humans don't have it, and a lot of women don't have this at all, like at all, the way we had our relationship. So I wanted to ask you, from your perspective, in those, since you met me and since you kind of got involved with Project Human, and we started this journey of healing on our own way through conversation, through accepting the accountability and responsibility of a lot of stuff. What has been your what's been your experience like? What has been your, again, because I know from your personal life it may not have been, but here you are now, and we just talked about some of the stuff. What has your experience been like for you? Because the stigma surrounding mental health and how we view human beings in their space and time, and this is something I preach all the time, so we have to accept the human for where they are, who they are in their moment in space and time, and allow them to accept that as well, so that they can help navigate the change that they need, because that's what you did. You helped me navigate the changes you needed. But I hope that we, at least, I accepted you for what you were, where you were, how you were, what you needed in that way. And that's something I've learned that through, and this is in different, even my own experience going through the mental health system, through the health system, through different advocacy groups, different places, different things. The one thing that I don't hear is the conversation and the acceptance of the person in the space and place and time that they are, not what they should be, could be, would be, or what we expected and all. And so from your perspective, what has been that experience? Because I know we've had that discussion a little bit, how like infuriating is to go to a professional and they tell you you're crazy and you're like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not crazy. I'm just a little off my rocker because I don't understand, but you're not willing to talk to me. And then you're like, well, you should be. And you're like, I know what I should be. Like, I know. You're not helping me. So, how has that different over again, we've been 3 years into this healing process. We've been 3 years into this journey, into this idea that this Adela's thesis and her little mini project of like this works.
Of course.
How's your experience been?
Well, yeah, professionally, it's been rocky because I am I've been diagnosed borderline personality disorder, and I completely agree with this diagnosis. I absolutely hate the stigma that comes with it because there has been quite, it seems to be the go-to diagnosis for crazy, that wonderful word, crazy women and or just crazy people, but normally women. And as much as I like agree with it, it's difficult to find the treatment for it or the professional help for it. So, like I've been ghosted by so many therapists. It's not even funny, which is crazy because that's something that is not good. So
That's their
it's so
job.
weird. Yeah, it's their job. And there's trial and error as is with so many different conditions, with medications. And I've just realized that a lot of it is finding my own way to deal with it. Not necessarily deal with it, but my own like treatment, so to speak. So with finding Project Human, especially through my initial, I was like in a really tough time. It was kind of like, I guess, like my rock bottom, I'd say, to be honest. To be able to find Project Human at that moment, too, gave me kind of the opportunity to kind of do like my own Project Human treatment. Like it's like your own it's like when you create your own major at university. It's like instead I created my own therapy
Well, you
kind of
created, well,
with you
and I want to be careful about the word therapy
myself.
because I don't want us to get flagged on some stuff.
Oh
Because,
yes, yeah, not
yeah, on
therapy,
their thing,
like
what you did was
my
create
own
your own system of
course
functionality. A
system.
system of
Oh.
functionality. And that was the whole point, is that we're not viewed, like what you just said, the stigma that people can't function when they have a
Hmm.
diagnosis of something, that they can't be in charge of their own being, that they can't be in charge of their own reality. When in reality, what they need is a different form of executing and processing and functioning. So what works for me in my daily life of functioning will not work for you, because let me tell, like, what works for me doesn't work for like 80% of people. Okay, and Claire will tell you I am like,
Your powerhouse.
well, no, not powerhouse. Like, I have problems, but I realized that being that strict in my regiment eliminates my problems, right? And that's the point. Without medication or without going to therapy and being told that, Adela, the way you talk or the way you speak about things or the way you're expressing things, you'll be committed. So, like you said, you had the ability to create your own system of functionality through art. Like, because that's what we did. It wasn't, we didn't sit there in kumbaya. Like, we didn't, and I know that people love to do that, but we don't. We're not a kumbaya kind of thing. And that's like where, as warm and lovey as I am not a kumbaya person. But I am absolutely the human that looks at you and says, I see your potential, I see your value, I see your worth, and I see where you're at. How do you want to get there? What can I do to help you to get there? Because it's your life. Like, I'm just here coming in and going, but ultimately it's for you. And I want to be a good influence, and I want to be a positive one. So you have to take it on. Like, I want to be that good fish, right? Like, as you're baiting out your life. And you hooked on so good, because, and to me, while everyone else around us, and again, you and I have a very mixed group of humans that we worked with, that we talk with, like you said, professionally, a lot of stuff was rocky, even with Vink, with other things, and even personally, a lot of humans were just having their say about stuff without even knowing who you were or what you were, or again, just the way they do about me, which is cool because again, I embrace all my stories. I'm at the point where, sure, I am what I am. I am what you say I am. But having that confidence to be at that level of knowledge and that is kind of hard to get to. And you have, over these last 3 years, like I've said, just literally blown my mind in your will and want to do that for yourself. Like you said, you created yourself. You became obsessed with your own little self of how do you make this little painting be a better painting. Just like now you're into painting and like making the right. You're like, now how does future Claire look and feel and think? What is future Claire's environment like? Oh, okay, it's like this because we decided that associating art and associating our actions with our thinking was a good thing with how we like, and we're like, okay, well, if I like painting and I could spend hours painting, or if I like singing, or if I like filming, then why can't I spend a few hours taking a minute to look at myself and see why I don't like myself? Because we've done the reflections on a lot of that to lead to this.
Hmm.
And that's not an easy process. So I give you so much kudos because so many people have quit. And I don't mean quit like, oh my God, but quit the journey of walking through this program. Because again, I'm not an easy human to deal with either when it comes to me wanting to push you. Claire will tell you, I'm like, do you want the sweet Adela or do you want honest Adela? Which Adela do you want? Because honest Adela kicks ass and sweet Adela nurtures your love side and she'll coddle you. So like, which one do you want? But 90% of the time, it's, give me honest Adela because I don't want to lie to you. Like, I never want to lie to you about just to spare your feelings because your feelings, as validated as they are in the time and space for where they are and like where we're at, that's the acceptance of validating the feelings for the human of where they're at in that. It doesn't mean validating it for the future of all of their days of actions, right? Like, so if I'm feeling down today, it's okay, Adela, you should feel down, but it's okay to feel down tomorrow and the next day and the next day because of this. Like, no, it's okay to have a day off, but understand that you're also in control of being like, my day off was fine, but I don't like this. So let me go do a few more things because I want to be better. So how did you change your mind? And I say this, your mind, your voice inside your head, because I remember the voice that was, and it still lingers and it still is there and will always be there. Because it's a voice I deal with all the time that you're not good, like literally this morning. And just, you heard me talk to myself. Like you heard my little spiel
Trying to figure out the audio.
when we were trying to figure out the audio. And I'm like, oh my God. And in my head, I'm like, you worthless piece of crap. Like literally those were, right. And I'm sitting here just now with you. So again, while society may view me one way or we may view ourselves another way, how we view ourselves is a completely different way, and how we act upon our daily lives completely different. So how did you change from, or have put yourself into the position for change? Let me rephrase it that way because we're still working on it consistently, all of us. So how did you put yourself into the position of changing your perspective from that voice being in control of your reality to you consciously being in control of your reality? Even though it's hard because a lot of, again, we fall subconsciously into old behavior patterns and we don't really know what we're doing sometimes and we have to catch ourselves. But you're a lot better with being consciously aware now about your actions, your patterns, and what you want to do, where you want to go. So do you remember or do you recall or do you have a potential like where you was like, you know what, this is the shift. I see it. Like I see how this is bettering me for me consciously, like where you're now, sure, I hear your voice, but I'm tougher.
I don't think I can recall a specific moment, but I can certainly recall, what the catalyst would be. And it was taking that accountability because as long as I was making some kind of excuse, even with like getting triggered with certain things, ever since I've actually like taken the accountability and accepted that, it's been a lot easier to then go on the other side. It's like you can't work on it without accepting it first. I think that's like one of the like stages of one of the things. I don't know if it's like grief or something.
It,
Like one of
it's
the stages of
it
grief is like one of the
is.
things is like you have to accept it first. And that's what it's like with changing your mindset and working on things like triggers. Like you have to accept that it happens and how it happens and how it affects you, and then you can work on it, get rid of it or change it or whatever you need to do.
Yeah, you brought up a great point on that because you're a prime example of, and I remember reading in your reflections, and I remember us talking in our coaching
Mhm.
session where you're like, you know what? One of my triggers is gone. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that one of my triggers is gone. And I was like, yes. Because I remember specifically, too, for me, when my biggest trigger for the long, and I'll never forget, and it was just because I was captivated by this human, like just captivated. Her name is Alina, and her aura and her essence is just raw, the best thing ever to me, at least, at least personal perspective. But it was personal perspective. Um, but it was about, I don't even know, about 8 years ago. And it probably wrong in timing, but I went to this networking event downtown. And prior to that, and up until maybe even 3 years ago, I, I can't walk into a place, into a space, into a location with a group of people or any of that without feeling like I'm going to die. Without my anxiety taking over to the level where I start to get anxious and I start to get out loud and I start to get obnoxious to people and annoying to people because it's my self-defense mechanism, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. So what do? I act out. And I didn't know that's what I was doing until people would be like, oh my God, she's too much. She's too much. She's too much. Um, but to me in that moment was that there was a sniper in the back of my head. There was a
Mhm.
bomb in the space. Like, there was a rocket that was gonna come. Like, to me, there was
Mhm.
not a way out. Like, and so it was to deflect and make space, as much space with people, and remove them distance wise, physically, as well as emotionally, as well as mentally, because what's the point if I'm gonna die? And then, so I can also have the best chance of survival. And I remember going into this place and sitting, and I was late to the event. And I just had a panic attack in the car, got myself together. I walked in and I'm all Adela, just Adela thing. And if I really wanted to act one day, I could potentially, genuinely, because I've played plenty of roles for what I've had to do in my life. And I walked in Adela mode and sat in the corner, and I was trapped. I couldn't get out. It was also where I met a couple people like Kim Brown and a couple other people whom I still keep in contact with. But I remember going there. Oh my God! Like I can't get out. There's so many people. I can't get out. And it was just the sweetest, like nicest atmosphere. There was no like reason for me to have this level of reaction. So I'm just fidgeting and moving around and just having my moment without knowing that my body's having that. And Alina walks up and she's having this thing and she's got her gray streak and she's pregnant and she's just the glowingest ray of light. Just, oh my goodness, to me. And peace just kind of washes over me. And I was like, okay, I don't know what it was. I don't know how. I don't know what it, like, how she calmed me. But calmed me enough to be able to be in that situation. Again, evaluate the situation. Okay, I'm not dying. Nothing's happening. I'm
Mhm.
in an environment with humans. They're having a conversation. There's somebody next to me. There's somebody, like, it brought me to reality. Like, I don't know how, again, her magical Reiki powers, amazing human life experience, energy releasing things she does. It hit me. It hit me to the heart. And I was like, oh man, okay, okay. And so then we did this exercise and I stared into someone's eyes, and it was like the first time where I was just kind of conscious, and I was like, okay, like this is what reality could be. Like, oh, okay. Like, even though I was still like this, my body was just so, my mind was able to go, oh, this might be a different change of pace. Like, okay, like, okay. And I remember literally thinking that while I'm freaking the fuck out. And I walk out, we leave, whatever. I get in the car and I just lose it. And I just lose it, all of it. And after that, it was like, how do I push myself into situations? And that's where Film Bar came in, and being into these, that's how I got into really everybody, was how do I push myself into situations where I'm literally forced to feel that feeling of absolute terror and anxiety. And if there was that one time, because I'm always that one time, if there was that one time of clarity, that one time, then how do I do that one time again in this space, and again in this space, and again? And it took years, and it's still taking years. But I'm getting to that point where I can win. My mind can win. I can win over my mind going, this is, and again, my PTSD is so different. I have complex PTSDs I've been diagnosed with, and dissociative amnesia. They tried to diagnose me with borderline personality disorder and bipolar, which I could. However, I don't accept it. There's some things like I'll accept, some things I don't. For me, where it's like, no, I have these, because here's what I've learned in my study and in my experience with humans and different people teaching us about mental health and disorders, is that there's episodes. Everybody can go through an episode of being in a dissociative state of existence, or in a bipolar state of it, which is where your emotions are completely it just in a disarray, you can't control it, or in a personal, or in a sort of borderline personality where you're like, oh, I teeter-totter on this Adela, that Adela, this Adela, that Adela, which is where they'd be like, but I have 8 of them, so this is where they could call me also all kinds of crazy, but I have one Adela, but because I talk that way to be able to process and function and have these conversations, our system is like, well, we need to make a note that she's kind of crazy, and she should be put in a ward, that she should be. So these stigmas, these fears that we have to say this, right? To just say this, when you and I both know that when we're working and we're doing best and functioning in our space and the way we are, like, we are kicking ass. And when when something it doesn't go the way we have planned or processed or have prepared for, and that puts us, we may not know how to process or respond to it, but we're willing to learn. And that's part of what every human should be willing to do, whether that's at that extreme level that we're experiencing, or just in their everyday anxiety or everyday states of depressive moments and being, is that like, okay, these seasons, these sessions, these things, but like, I know I'm better within me. Like, I can create a palette of my life.
Yep.
I can repaint this feeling. I can repaint this moment. Sure, it's going to take time. And am I willing to learn how these colors work? Because that's part of that. And I use colors in paintings because and that could be associated with learn how a car works. If somebody wanted to build a car, or if learn how how to learn a new language. Like, you'd have to learn how that works, and that takes time. You're just not willing to put in the time or the effort because you don't believe you're worth the time and the effort. If that's what you want to do, so what? 1 hour a day, you can't to do that so that you can act 1 hour a day, you can paint 1 hour a day, you can sing opera 1 hour a day, you can crochet another hour of the day, right? You can go on a walk with your dogs another hour a day, you could cook for yourself a meal. I mean, what kind of, that's a crazy life. Oh my goodness, a life of an artist and a creator. But when you're going to a 9-to-5 job and just doing the 9-to-5 and you're in just that box and everything, like, you're sane for that? No offense, but you're sane for that? Why can't our way be a sane way sometimes? And I'm not saying, again, our extremes, you guys, let's get it right. But those who are willing, we're talking about middle ground. We're talking about, yes, there's something a little different about us. Yes, there's something a little bit, but why can't we coach and guide each other through this and through conversation? Hey, so, Claire, let me ask you, actually, this is a good question. When you are in your state of experiencing a moment of an episode, whichever episode that might be, that's affecting your reality, that's affecting the way where you're at and where your situation is, what would be like your preference of people's reactions? Again, I understand that their reaction would be like shock and, oh my God, I don't know what to do, or you get yourself together and like, I understand. Okay.
Mm.
But when you're in it, for me, it's not that, because that just creates my anxiety even more. That just creates and like makes the situation worse. It's more so of like, let them take a step back, see me where I'm at, and then come to my level. How about you?
I'd say I actually saw a an advertisement for Down syndrome lately that connected with me. Just I felt like could apply to mental health as well. And it was talking about how like you don't expect that they can do things, so you don't give them the opportunity to, you don't teach them, so they can't. Rather than expecting, you know, assuming, expecting that they can, so you do teach them and blah blah, and they can. I feel like it's the same thing with dealing with mental health. Whenever, and this is actually like such a like something that makes me angry sometimes, like a pet peeve almost with mental health. But whenever something like someone's going through something, everyone has to, or at least in my experience, most people draw attention to that in the way that not necessarily that they're like, oh my God, that person's freaking out, but they make that person draw attention to it. You know, they're like, oh my God, you're freaking out. Why don't you stop? Like, do you see yourself right now? And they're not aware that, especially if this is something that you deal with all the time, that,
I
I
see
realize
myself.
that I'm doing that. Like, yes, it's the fact that I can't control it. And you just highlighting that or shining a huge spotlight on that is a lot harder to like stop and control. So, in my experience, when people have actually given me a moment, like not to say that like, oh my God, just ignore that person, like don't you dare look. Like not to say that you go all the way to the other side and do that. But when people have given me the moment and the faith to, you know, like they have faith in me to, or the strength to be able to pull out of it, maybe even a word of encouragement, be like, you got this. But just the sense that they trust me to get myself out of it gives me that strength to get out of it.
That
And
confidence
then
in you.
eventually I'm not going to. Yes, it's that confidence. So it's weird because you get caught in a circle a lot of the times. People will be like you'll start freaking out and you'll be like, okay, I got this. People will be like, oh my God, you're freaking out. And you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And then it gets worse. And then
Because what you
there
just
you
said, I want to
go.
highlight that, because you yourself are so, like, not you yourself, but who, those of us who are working through this, and my reference to you is that, but those of us who are working through this, you don't understand, like, we know in our head how socially unacceptable it is to behave the way we're behaving, but
You're
we lose
unaware.
all ability to speak it and go, I need help, I need a moment, when in reality we, and I go back to my point earlier where we've spent 20 years being trained in something. In 20 years of your life, you've been spent 20 years being told, don't freak out, don't freak out, get yourself together, get yourself together, get yourself together, get yourself together, get yourself together. Now when you're
About
in,
making a scene.
now the moment you're in your adult thing moment and you're trying to figure that out and you're like, okay, I got this, and somebody goes, don't freak yourself, I'll get you together, get you together, you're like, okay, but I'm not, I'm trying, because
And
your
they're like
brain can't,
automatically making it worse.
because your brain is literally, like, the way I've described it, at least when it happens to me, is that my brain goes like, and I have a very weird way of the way I view my brain and myself, but my brain is like this city. So I love the Matrix movie, and it's like the thing that connects with me the most, and it's like my brain is the virus. It's like the actual Matrix virus, like it tries to kill me and take me over all the time. and and so for me, whenever like I have to, what is that EP? I forgot the name. When I have to do the big old explosive electromagnetic bomb thing, just because like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and
EMP.
and it fries all the circuits, right? That's like, it's like the Matrix is attacking my brain. It's coming in, and I'm trying to find the button to press it so that it stops from like trying to kill me. And then there's like 100 of them going, press the button, press the button, press the button.
Yeah, you're like, I'm trying. You're
And I'm
really
like,
effective.
that's literally how my head, like, I were like, and I'm like, I'm trying to, I'm trying. And so when I'm in reality and those things happen and people are like, get yourself together, in my head, I'm like, I'm trying. I
Hmm.
can't get the button. I can't get the button. And it's like, something is sure so it won't work. And then it just takes over and then it eats everything and then we all die and then we have to restart all over again. And, but
Yep.
eventually
So
there's that
cool.
one, the one that can
Mhm.
save the day, right? And so I think we're in a position of finding the one voice, the one thing, the one knowledge and the truth within us that's like, no, you're stronger than your thought, you're stronger than your feeling, you're stronger than like the imagination of the realities we create. You're stronger than that. It's great to have these imaginations and it's great to do that, but let's on a very basic elementary level get to just you as a naked human. What does that mean and look like for you without all of that? And that's hard to do because that's the balance, and that's where the 9 to 5 job comes in, and it's even more bleak than what we say because we're thinking more yada yada yada, we can live our life happy, like not 9 to 5. But that's where the 9 to 5 comes in. That's where that superstructure, that's where that tie and everybody fits in uniformed, when our brains just don't work that way. We don't function that way. And we don't understand how you can function the way you function. And then you don't understand how we function the way we function. So you know what happens? Clashes of function. There's the matrix. There's your fight. And it's the system and the agents versus the free. And to me, it's like, okay, well, how do we now again freely have these conversations, take light in them? We're not taking light in the fact that humans lose their life every day due to mental health illnesses and disorders, every single day, due to experiences and tragedies of their lives that are completely and like utterly unforeseeable. However, comma, I would like to say
Mhm.
that we have the ability to change that, but we can't change that without the conversation of, as we've said, the how. Like, how did we get here? How is this happening? How are we going to fix it? What's actually, like, what are the steps? And then if these steps have started to be implemented, give ourselves the ability to change the process without going, that's it, we're stuck, that's the way. No. And that's one
Mhm.
thing that Project Human has even taught me, and we've taught ourselves, is that the ability to flow, the ability to change how you function is so important, because you change as you experience. You literally change as you experience. And if you don't change your system of functionality as you experience and bring new information in and new voices, new whatever it is that you're bringing in, that is going to affect you. And if you're pretending like it's not, that's one of the problems we have, is that we're not willing to have that. So um I'm glad that we have gotten to the point where, at least not at this level, but we here on our little scale, gotten to the point to have this conversation, and especially with you, for you, because I know how hard this has been for you. I absolutely know how hard it is for you to come out in this way and in this, and to own and accept. And I was there before the owning and acceptance, and I'm here after the owning and acceptance. So, like, living proof and witness to the actual change and your testimony to yourself. And again, it's not just to me, it's not to Fink, it's not to your dad, it's not to this. Sure, we were a great structure, sure, we're a great help, sure, I'm a hard ass and all that other great stuff. However, your decision every day, going back to that basic functionality, your decision every day to be accountable for that, to do that, to get yourself out of those relationships, out of those situations, to get into your place that you're at, to try on a new task, to get an agent, to book these roles. Look at how we're
Mhm.
like two winning because you made a decision.
Mhm.
So how's your life today compared to a year ago? And I'm asking this because, well, 2 years ago we did an interview for the documentary, which we'll be redoing again, another interview coming up. And I remember that day too for you, and how like anxious you were that day.
Very.
How is it again for 2 years later? Look at you now, just being able to pop on and have a conversation in a different way. Same Claire.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I know more about myself. I understand myself more, which, I mean, in 2 years from now, I'm gonna know and understand myself even more. So I don't know, it's always a learning and growing process, and it's really cool to actually look back and see it. Because I do remember, those moments. I even had to, have a moment with Emma. I was like, okay, we need to take a sec. Like, I remember shaking. Like, it was a fun moment, but it's like I cannot believe I'm talking about this publicly now. Like, there are people from the film um community here who don't know about like what I've been through, like, and they're going to hear about some of it today. Oh my gosh, like, whereas now I'm more open about it. It's not that people are more accepting about it, but it needs to be
You are
said. So
accepting of it. And
I'm
like,
more accepting about
and
it.
that right
Thank
there changes everything. It doesn't matter about society. It doesn't matter about me or anything. None of it. It matters about you, the human, accepting the situations and then accepting the realities and then accepting that you are in the power to change them. And you get to own all that credit. Like, that's a part of where people go, oh, no, we have to give credit to everybody and the teams and everybody. No, sure, I give credit to everybody. But you know what Snoop Dogg said? I gotta thank my motherfucking self for never giving up on myself. When he said that, like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, you know what? You're right. That's not self because it goes into every day. You had
Mhm.
to get up and bet on yourself every
Yeah,
day.
just
Now, it isn't about betting on yourself. I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm going to win this and I'm going to be. No, I'm going to breathe today and I'm going to have a good day. Like, if I can make it through
Mhm.
that, then I can add, okay, I'm going to breathe today, have a good day, and maybe eat better today. Great. And then if I can do those three things, I'm going to have a good day, breathe, eat better, and maybe work out. Okay, great. Now I'm going to, checklists like those, but they take time. They take conversation. They take dedication and commitment. And again, we talk about the acceptability and accountability and responsibility of your life and your existence and how short it is here, and that you have the power to impact it on a way bigger scale than you ever thought you could be, that you would want to be, um, because your voice matters in that way, just because you've accepted yourself for that. And that's what advocacy is about, right? Like, that's what
Mhm.
advocating for your stance and where your life is and where it can go. So how do you feel about advocating for yourself now versus a year ago or 2 years ago? And what would you leave our or tell our followers when it comes to that and it comes to advocating for yourself and your mental health?
Well, I mean, in regards to advocating, it's all about, I feel, it's all about just like having that support in yourself. I mean, like, and for I'm gonna say how I'm gonna say this. It's not necessarily, looking at everybody else and how they, view your struggles, or like how you should deal with your struggles. It's finding how you should properly, or I guess what works best for you, how you should appropriately work on yourself, advocating for your own unique and personal growth, your own method. Like, just like I did, my own Project Human system,
Yeah.
it's advocating that everyone doesn't fit in a cookie cutter. Like, it's not like healing a broken leg. I
No.
like to I like to compare it to that sometimes, in a sense that, like, it should be with insurance. Like, they should let us like they should help us out with it a little more. I try to argue with that with insurance, but with actually treating it, like, it's not, because there isn't like one set cookie cutter for each person. So when it comes to advocating for yourself and your own growth, you need to advocate for what works for you, not to sit what healthily works for you. Because, like, not to say that there aren't, bad things that you can do,
That work for you
like
because
I
you're like,
am,
oh, I could go and get high off of meth
you could,
all day and
yeah,
it works for me. But you can also
exactly. You
die.
could go to
You can also
drugs, you could
die.
become
Like, just know,
alcohol.
right?
Hmm.
Like, you could also die. How do we
Exactly.
prevent you from dying? Like, what?
It's advocating for,
The longevity of your existence and the longevity of your life and the longevity
oh,
of a
you know what I
good
mean. Love it. Yeah.
life. That's what we're
Yes,
advocating
it's
for,
advocating
longevity.
for your quality of life and longevity. Yes, I love and
Yeah.
especially in regards to mental. And I say especially in regards to mental, yet they're all connected. And I know I've spoken about that before because like mental health immediately impacts your physical health, which emotional health is like it's almost the
It
same, but
impact
I
well,
feel
emotional
emotional health
impacts your
are
mental impacts your body impacts all of that, and then your
Mhm.
emotional. It is the biggest spider web ever, and yet we think that we, as an entity, as a human being, we think that the advocacy that we have to do for ourselves has to be so separated when it has to be one in a whole. And we have to treat all of those things as a one in a whole system and as a team
Mhm.
versus it being treated so individually. Even though, yes, they're individual entities when it comes to our system. Like, hey, there's hearts and there's physical and there's neurological and there's sure, like, and our psychology
Mhm.
for our, and our spiritual, whatever. However, we don't have a centralized thing that goes like you are a one in a whole being, and you as a one in a whole being is required to recognize that you work a certain way. How you work is like a freaking Lego piece, and where that gets dumped from somebody who donated to you because you didn't have a say in how you were made and what parts were thrown in there, and they're like, here you go, make a ship that'll save society, and you're like, what the hell? So you don't know, but if you're not willing to know, willing to accept the information and decipher all the pieces, which we have done, we have literally deciphered all
Mhm.
the pieces. Now that we've deciphered them, we've decided that they can't correlate together, and that, you know what, they shouldn't be together, where it's like, no, to make the damn ship and save society and to do this, you have to put it all together.
Mhm.
And this is where Project Human comes in. It's the idea that the human Project Human doesn't work if the human doesn't know how to function. Like, the idea that a human can function on its own, in its own space and time, in its own way, but it can still be of value to society based on the structure and the system they have formed that works best for them first, so that they have the energy and the capability and the knowledge and the fortitude to come out and be like, you know what, I want to better the society. I am going to come out and with every bit of me be better to this and do this because I'm better for all the things I'm doing. Like you said, you're advocating for yourself because you're better for the things you're doing for yourself. We're doing this, I'm doing this no matter how nervous I am, no matter how anxious I am. I know the moment I get into this, I'm like, I know why I did this. Number one, because my therapist said, Adela, you're paying me $100 an hour to talk. And I was like, I'm paying you to talk, and I love to talk, and I can't. Girl, I'm just gonna start my own talking show. Like, are you kidding me? Let's go. Right,
I
for
know.
free. And but if it's okay for me to go pay somebody to tell them in private my secrets about how I feel about stuff about this, and I'm not authentic to society. I'm not of no use to society. And I'm not saying that therapists are not, like, please, there's professionals, they're great, there's some great, there's all that. But we go back into accountability, responsibility for your actions and for where you are. If you're going in there without the actual understanding of what you provide on a daily basis to society by providing to yourself, then you're lying in that therapy session. You're lying about yourself and about everything. And you're not, because once you walk out, you're going to be mad that you paid for the shit that you already knew. Because that's the truth. You're going to be mad that you paid for the shit you already knew. And you and I know that because we're like, I paid you to learn something new. And they're like, we can't help you. You're doing everything that you're supposed to do. Other thing we can do is commit you or give you more drugs. And you're like, none of those options work for me. This is why I'm paying you. And so then we have to decide that we're worth going through the, journey of experiencing and learning who we are as a human. And art is one of the best ways to do that, because you get to really experiment with every parts of yourself, with every expression, with every feeling, with every moment, with every shape or form of
It's so
stuff.
raw.
It's so raw and it's so authentic, and it doesn't allow you to hide behind anything. And the mistakes that you create in your art, and when you put it out there, are so subjective to people what they are as mistakes. They are mistakes to some, they are art to others, they are beauty to some, they are ugly to some. But you don't get to control that. And that's like one of the most freeing things, because that's part of what I'm talking about, society, is that when you put into yourself and you create something for yourself that you're like, you know what, I'm willing to, it doesn't matter what they say then, because you know what? It's a gift to the world. You're a gift to the world. You and what you do and what you create is a gift then, because you have decided you're worth creating on yourself. And I think that concept is not selfish in any shape or form as we would like to have everybody think us. It's the least selfish thing to do that we can do, is to become, again, I'm going to reiterate that narrative, accountability, responsibility. You are accountable for your thought. You are responsible for your action. And you are absolutely like, I have one, and I call it the equation of life. I tell my son all the time, it's one equation. It's the only math equation I understand. But it's accountability. Well, it's two. Accountability and plus responsibility equal consequence. Action plus reaction equal consequence. Both of those equations lead to a consequence, whether good or bad. It is a result of something. And who is in control of your action? Or like, what's the most common denominator? That's literally how I understand math, okay? I don't understand math in any other way. Don't give me numbers. This is the only way.
Mental, mental math,
Mental
literally.
and philosophical math. And then it's like, okay, well, if you are all the common denominators and you get to control all your consequences, now let's add in two more other things. Well, that's going to change and shift them. How you respond is going to shift how everything's going to be. Just because there's two of them, just because there's eight of them, how you act in that equation is going to change and affect how you behave. So, like, they're still going to be there. And again, if I'm wrong to all my math whiz, all my people, let me know. But I think I got the concept of it. I think that's just pretty much it. There's things in that. And so, so I think if we can think on that level and go, okay, basic action, basic, okay, so did I get up, brush my teeth, make my bed, do this and do that? Okay, great, I did. Check, 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 action. Okay, did I talk to people? Did I do what I wanted to do? Check, check. Great. That's energy done. That's accomplishments done. Okay. I'm not here to save the world. And this is coming from Adela, who has been trying to save the world. And you know this from someone who, I am trying to save the world. And it's like, I can't save the world. But what I can do is impact one human at a time through my daily action by being responsible, again, for how I say, how I speak. And we're allowed to make mistakes. Mine are all over the internet, and all over in public with it. But it's also my growth, just like Claire's is, just like everybody else's is. So trust that. Trust that just because nobody else around you has faith in the possibility that you can change doesn't mean that there's not a human out there that does not have the faith in you for the possibility of the change. You don't need to be validated that your existence matters. Now, I know that that's what we need to do because we've been deflated, but you don't need to be validated at all that your existence, like, you matter as a human being. Now, how you decide that matter to be of influence to us is up to you. But you matter, and that is like the basic of basics, period. On my last thing, I wanted to ask you two things. What's one lesson you've learned from your relationship with me? And this is my personal selfish question because I'm interested and intrigued because, again, I have my perception of it. And then leave our viewers with a positive, well, not a positive, but leave them with a actionable, tangible. I lost my philosophical thing to give them a good way to. You know what I mean. We're at the stage where you understand me now. I get to that point, guys. I get to the point where we understand what my words are and we speak the same language. So, go ahead. My train left.
Well, first, I'd say one thing that I've definitely realized about my relationship with you, you've helped me, you have that unique ability to like help people step out and view themselves. So I've been able to like it's helped me like identify, that step where I said, you have to identify what's wrong, then you accept it, and then you can work on it. It's having that like outside look at myself that you made me take, like, because not just like outside, because I'm looking inside myself, it's going to sound confusing, but I'm looking from the outside on
On
my
the
inside,
inside.
I think it makes sense. But it's having that ability and in that honest ability to like do that in an unbiased way, because you were able to like look at me without what people were saying in the film group, with certain people with that you're able to just, and like without like any kind of like just like first impression, thing, whatever you saw, you're able to like listen, look into me and be like, Claire, this is what you're doing. And it's the honest Adela, where it's like, Claire, come on, you gotta, you gotta do. But you were still like, you taught me to like give myself hugs and all that stuff. So it's like, it's that looking on the outside and identifying. You've got that unique perspective, I feel.
Well, good. Now you've learned
Yeah,
it, so you get to share that with everybody around you and teach them, right? And you get to be
exactly.
that voice of reason for them for when you see them in that same space and be like, listen, guys, I'm not saying this because I want to. I'm saying this because I was there, and again, all the same things I talk. It's because I was there,
You
like
were
not because
really.
I. Oh, Adela was so holier. No, it's because I was there, and I didn't. I figured out how to learn to do it, and that's just because I was there. So yeah. So we'll leave our viewers with an encouraging statement for them to, if they're struggling or just to keep on going. Leave them something with encouragement from you, from your experience.
All right. Well, I did, while you were talking earlier, some just popped into my head regarding social media, actually, because we look at it as such a negative thing sometimes about how people like try to put off just a fake face, I guess, or fake life. And also, we see how like we may, look back at social media and be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe like I was like that or all this stuff. But I realized like recently, especially while we're talking here, we as a generation being like kind of the first ones on social media have that unique perspective to be able to go and look at our growth.
Yep.
Not just looking at the like it's looking past like how you were, like maybe you said some bad things, like yes, stuff's on the internet forever, but especially now people don't like realize that people grow. But like since then, although like people just being in trouble for stuff 10 years ago, I don't get that. But I agree, like I get if they didn't grow since then. So I just wanted to like leave people with, if you are, there's always some way that we as like a generation can look back and mark our growth. So like any kind of doubt, that you may have, relapse. I had a relapse technically I guess 2 weeks ago around Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all have moments, but I can look back at social media, even journals if you journal, but being able to mark that growth is really, I don't know if I would say fulfilling. It is fulfilling, but
It's
it's like
powerful.
it's, yeah,
It's
yeah, it helps
empowering.
give you that, it's reassuring,
It's
and it
reassuring.
helps give you that like, yeah, you look past it, but you see the growth.
And
So I would like, I guess, to leave people with reflection's good. Reflection's a good thing.
yeah. So you're
Take
giving
the time
people
to
that
reflect.
chance, giving people that chance too to reflect on the situations and stuff. I look at it. I look at my relationship with myself really quick, you guys, to leave you guys on this too. I look at my relationship with myself as an employee and boss relationship. It just is. There is the employee who wants to do whatever the hell it wants to do and not show up on time and be disgruntled and not want to learn, not want to advance. Like that's like, let's just be real, right? And then there's the CEO that's like, I need you because you are part of me and you are required, like you have to. And then the employee's like, I don't get paid for that. And so this is how I see my relationship with myself. And so I have to entice that employee on what's good on how to do that. And like you just said, enticing the employee, enticing yourself with growth. Now, again, these are not
Mhm.
things you can touch, you guys. These are things you have to train yourself to like
Mhm.
these are untangible things like discipline and commitment and trust and faith, and those are words and narratives that matter, that need to become a solid state within you. That way you can have this negotiation with yourself. Without it, you can't, and then you're going to lose, and the employee's always going to win because, well, it's the employee. They win. They can just quit. So, like, it's really that simple. You can always just quit. The hard part is actually putting in the work. And then the other hard part is holding yourself accountable as the CEO, because no one else is going to hold you accountable. Your parents, I even asked my husband, I said, could you please be my accountability partner for all the stuff I do here so I can get some rewards, I can do some stuff. Do you know? I said, are they really? No, they're not doing that. So you have to be the one and be like, okay, well, how will I reward myself? If I do all these things that I want to do, how will I reward myself? If I, you know what, Adela, what's your reward after this podcast? Well, my reward is that I'm going to give my dog a haircut and get this done, the things I need to do, check off a few things because I want to take Sunday off. So I'm taking my Sunday list and getting it done today because I want to take Sunday off. So that's my reward. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm going to take all day Sunday off. But I had to learn to do that. And I had to really have this negotiation with myself, and I had to have this conversation. And again, these things are learned by having these conversations with other human beings and negotiating with other human beings so that you can eventually take it home and be like, you know what? Man, Adela. And this is all to 8 Adelas. Let's figure shit out. Let's make some stuff happen. How can we all come together and decide, and how can we make it better? Because that's just the right thing to do. And I say this in joking and non joking ways, but having these entities within yourself to have this conversation and really a true clear head like conversation isn't about the voices and the oh my god, it's actually having a hear voice conversation about bettering yourself. And you know what that is because you know what you need to do. You know, and you guys know what I talk about. You know it. It's innate in you. You understand it. You're just not willing to put in the work. I don't know your no. I know mine, and I'm honest with it. But you know your no. Trust your no, no matter how long it takes. Have faith in that. Have faith in yourself and your existence because gosh, the greatest thing and the greatest gift is that you exist. Like genuinely, after that, it's everything else that you decide to create. Like it just is. I don't know how else to say it. It just that. So find value in that. Find peace in that. So that way you can create an accomplishment. So I'm leaving you off with that on top of all of this. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I hope you have a great time. Really quick, Claire, where can everybody find you at?
Oh, yes, you can find me. I have a website. It is clairelouisehuder.com. But you can find me on my socials, Instagram at Cinder Redhead, same on TikTok.
And it's right above her head, you guys. It's Cinder Redhead, just as the way you can find at Think, a new way to think about about mental health and all the other good stuff. And we're just here to have these conversations with you, and we look forward to having more. Claire, it was a pleasure. I can't wait to talk more, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Deuces.
Thank you.